Hello, I want to talk about this short row sleeve cap shaping. I have some students that are working on a top-down set-in sleeve, and it calls for short row shaping to shape the cap of the sleeve. So I want to describe on paper how the sleeve is actually shaped and what the directions are telling us to do. Because sometimes it's difficult to actually see it happening in the knitting while the knitting's on the needles. So let me just go ahead and start. What the directions have you do is to pick up all of your stitches around the armhole, which is what this circle here represents. So all the stitches have been picked up around the armhole all the way down. And during that picking up of the stitches, a marker was placed at the seam line for the underarm rather, and the top seam line at the shoulder. And then 16 stitches to either side of this center seam marker, another marker was placed, one to the left and one to the right. So we've got 16 stitches here and 16 stitches there. Then the directions tell you to begin your short row. Okay, so in order to do that, now you've already gone around once, one complete time picking up your stitches. So you're here and you're going to work up the knitting. You're going to work along. You're going to come to the first marker and you're going to slip the marker and continue working these stitches. You're going to come to the next marker, slip it, and continue working down, okay, to the next marker. So here's where the directions for the short rows begin. The directions say slip your marker, wrap the next stitch, and we've talked about short row wrapping before, so if you're in my class you'll know what that is. But just for to be nice, to be fair, I'll make a video about that in a few days. So I've come past my marker, I've slipped it, and so I'm going to wrap and turn. I'll make a little loop here, and then I turn around and purl back, okay, past my marker, and then to one stitch past the marker on this side, and then the directions tell me to wrap and turn. So I'll wrap and turn, and then I'll come back, and now I'm knitting because I'm turning, and instead of working in the round, now I'm working flat. So I'm working back, and the directions say to the wrap stitch. So I'm going to come up to the wrap stitch, and I'm going to pick up its wrap and work that stitch, and the directions tell me to knit one stitch after the wrap stitch. So I will come past that one stitch and then work it, and then I will wrap and turn the next stitch after that. Then I'll come around purling. I'll get to the marker, past the marker, work the wrap stitch, one more stitch directly after it, and then wrap and turn the next stitch after that, knit back, past the marker, past the 1, 2, 3, I'm coming to the next wrap stitch, work it, and then one stitch right after it, and then wrap and turn, purl back to my last wrap stitch. Again, I've got 1, 2, 3 stitches past my marker now. I picked up my wrap stitch and worked it, one more stitch directly after it, and then wrap and turn. And knit back to my wrap stitch, work it, then work one stitch directly after it, and then wrap and turn the next stitch after. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then work back to the wrap stitch, work it, one stitch directly after it, and then wrap and turn. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and my wrap stitch. So the directions tell us to do this wrap and then work the next stitch, wrap and then work the next stitch, wrap and then work the next stitch. I believe it's a total of 5 times. So I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4. Got to do this one more time. Work back, I'm knitting. Work the wrap stitch, one stitch directly after it, and then wrap and turn. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is my last one of this. Go back, work the wrap stitch, one directly after it, and I've got 1, and you count the groups, the wrap stitch and the stitch directly after it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 5, the last wrap. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, after you've got your 5 wrap stitches, the directions change and say that you're going to continue wrapping and turning, but instead of wrapping, knitting the stitch directly after, you're going to go 2 stitches. So you'll come to your wrap stitch, work it, and then knit the next stitch, and then knit the next stitch, and then, so you've got 2 stitches there, 8, 9, 10, and then wrap and turn. You'll come over here, work your wrap, and then work 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then wrap and turn. And you're going to do that for a total of however many times it tells you in the directions. And the directions might say wrap, knit 2 stitches, and go back instead of wrap and, I mean, these 2 sections might be reversed. Depends on the pattern and what the designer had in mind. They might have you do your wraps and turns close together at the top or close together at the bottom. But that's what's happening. You're coming to the wrap, working the number of stitches the directions tell you directly after the wrap, and then going back. So here we came on, we wrapped and turned, and we went back and wrapped and turned, and then we came back, picked up our wrapped stitch, worked 1, wrapped another one, came back, worked our wrapped stitch, worked another plain stitch, wrapped again and went back, and so on and so forth. And what's happening here is we're filling in the top of the sleeve. This is the sleeve cap. And we're also working our way down to bring the fabric down neatly along this edge here. So we're going to continue doing that until you have the number of sequences completed. And these markers here, don't move. They stay where they are. And so what you need to do is you count how many stitches the directions tell you. So if you've got a wrap stitch and then a work stitch, a wrap stitch and a work stitch. So here I've got 10 stitches worked. So according to the number of times and stitches that the directions tell you to work, you end up with maybe a total of 19 stitches for your particular size, or maybe it's 12 stitches. If depending on, you've got one wrap and the stitch, a 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 wrap and two stitches, a wrap and two stitches, however number of times that you are supposed to work those segments. And so then you'll end up with the total number of stitches that you need to have after this marker. And that way you can keep track of whether or not you've completed all of your wrap and turn sequences. So let's say that I should end up with 19 stitches past my marker. So once I've achieved that 19 stitches, then at that point, if I've knit around and I've got 19 stitches here and probably 20 on one side, because you're going to end up working one extra row on one side, but that's okay. It's not going to hurt anything. So once you've got your 19 stitches and you're on a knit side, okay, so let's say I'm only supposed to have as many as I have here right now, which is 10. Okay, so let's say I'm all done now with my wrap and turning sequences. Then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue working in the round. So this was my last wrap and turn sequence. I came back knitting. Okay, so here I am, wrap and turn. This is my last wrap and turn. So I'm going to come back and now I'm knitting back, and I pick up my wrap and turn. I pick it up, and then now I continue knitting in the round on my sleeve. Come to the center marker and then knit around, and then now I'm just going to knit my sleeve in a circle like what I'm used to doing, and then begin my sleeve shaping for the bottom of the sleeve. Now I'm working around and around in a circle, and my sleeve here is our shoulder that we shaped on the sweater, right? So our markers were here, here, and here. And then with our short rows, we built the sleeve cap to maybe about pretty darn close to the marker down here. We probably came about here. Okay, so this was all our short rows that we were working. And then we began working in the round again. And so at this point, we're going to be working the rest of the sleeve down, and we're going to be doing our decreases at the underarm until we get down to the cuff. And this is going to be worked around in a circle, which is, what we've already done numerous times, so that's nothing new or difficult about that. And then bind off at the bottom with our tubular bind off. So I hope this video is helpful as far as what's happening when we're going back and forth on the needle to build this sleeve cap here before we can start to knit around in a circle. And again, the markers stay where they're supposed to be, and you'll just count the number of stitches you've gotten away from the marker depending on your directions. So if your directions told you to do a wrap and a stitch 5 times, and then a wrap and 2 stitches 7 times, so that would be 10 stitches, the wrap and the stitch, And then over here would be another, that's 3 stitches, 10, that's another 21 stitches. So that, if that was the way that the directions were written, that would be your 10 stitches here and 21, so 31 stitches total from the marker on either side, if that was your set of directions. And these markers do not move. Okay, I hope this was helpful. And if you have any questions, drop me an email or a comment, and I'll be happy to help and answer any questions to the best of my ability. Have a great day.